question.
Stuart, Chakra, could you talk about how the higher energies utilize us?
Please, everyone, try and sit still and, have patience and sit. It's not a good idea for people to turn off their, for another 10 minutes, it's just a little respect. One can sit till the end of the class. Can you repeat that question?
Yes, would you talk about how the higher energies utilize us?
Well, it depends upon, it really, they can't utilize us in a conscious way if we don't make a serious effort to open and develop a system inside that allows higher energy to flow through us. Higher energy utilizes us in depending upon what our consciousness is. If we're full of tension, if we're full of anger, if we're full of anxiety, this higher energy comes through, and that's how it's used in the world. But if we're full of love, if we're full of joy, if we're full of gratitude, the higher energy flows into us, and that's how it's used in the world. How higher energy is used through human beings depends upon the consciousness of each and every person. It really does. It depends upon the work one does on themselves, depends upon the development of a strong chakra system. It depends upon, what we do to build ourselves and to get closer to having a spiritual life. The more evolved we are inside ourselves, higher energy can use us in a more evolved way. If we're not evolved inside, we're full of anger and, we're judging everybody, or opinionated, we're some kind of righteous person. That's how we're used. You understand? And you got to realize higher energy, there's many kinds of energies in the universe. There's positive energy, there's negative energy. And if we are negative inside ourselves, that's how we're used. You understand? All you have to do is turn the television set on and look at all these politicians. They literally are being used by negative energy to create all the crap that they create in the world. So it all depends upon the work that we do inside ourselves. That's what the universe wants us to do. But, the problem is you get, 1% of the human race functions here with any kind of high degree of consciousness. And it's almost those people that do that are the pillars that keep the world from falling apart. It's really true, So higher energy, is very dependent upon what human beings do to build a system inside that is really open. That's our job. It's not the job of higher energy, it's our job. Our job is to learn to be grateful. Our job is to live with quiet minds. Our job is to really build a system inside that's connected to spirit, that's capable of working out karma in a joyful, loving, compassionate way. That's our job. And that's how higher energy will use us. If we're a bunch of opinionated people, the energy uses us that way as a reminder to other people that that's not the way you're supposed to live. Really. It's completely an amazing thing how dependent all of that is upon what a human being does inside themselves. And then you can't blame anybody. If you're unhappy, you can't blame anybody. You're unhappy because you haven't done the inner work to keep your heart open. If you're very emotional, you're very mental, you haven't done the inner work to get past all that stuff so that higher energy can flow through you, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And then that creates your life. That enables you to be able to work out your karma, to become a human being who has found, joy, love, gratitude in their life. The big one is forgiveness, compassion. That's our job, you understand? That's not the job of higher energy. And then the human soul merges with the higher soul. Our will, they always, theologians always talk about divine will and human will. Well, our will merges with divine will when we do the inner work inside ourselves. If we don't do the work, then it's like static on a radio, I mean, the energy gets very chaotic as it flows through us, only because we're chaotic. If we're clear inside, the energy flows in a clear way. I mean, I always talk about artists, you put them in the studio, they suddenly get into that zone where there's clarity. The energy flows through them. You get a lunatic like Caravaggio, you understand, who was killing people, he was a magician, whatever he was wanted by the law. You put him in a studio, all of a sudden, all of that went away. And there was this clear vision which created masterpieces. So our job is to recognize that it's not just being in a studio, it's life that is the greatest work of art. And the reason why life is so complicated and, full of so much static is that we're so complicated and full of static. That's how higher energy uses us, totally dependent upon how we live inside ourselves, what work we have done to fix ourselves inside. It's not complicated. It really isn't. And we shouldn't complain about it, because what we see is literally a mirror in the world, is a mirror image of ourselves. That's what we see. And as we get clearer inside, what we see gets clearer. Our capacity to love unconditionally gets clearer. Our capacity to live here with non-judgment gets clearer. Our capacity to accept human beings, to let them be, gets clearer. And the best thing of all is we're not right. We're not righteous. I mean, the hardest people to spend any time around are righteous people that know, and they don't give you the room to even breathe, because they know better. Who knows better? I don't know anything, frankly. I must admit, I gave up knowing anything, 30 years ago. I'm just happy I can experience that energy coming through me every day. And it becomes a living experience. You become God's child. It's a living experience, not what's in my head that knows better. I don't know better. And it was a big load off when I finally was able to realize that. Big load off. I mean, it took so much weight off of me to finally say, Stuart, what the hell do you know about anything? Just do God's work. Get clearer in yourself. Let people live around you. Let people be. Boy, you ask a question, you get a chapter from a book.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? And it's, you know, the guy once wrote a book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which I read and I didn't like very much, but the title was great, you know? Title is fantastic. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. We, you know, that should be life. That point. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And just to finish this thing, above everything, we just have to have the ability to laugh at ourselves. Understand, we're all a bunch of schmucks, you know, we really are. We make mistakes, we do things wrong. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. We have to be able to forgive ourselves. We have to be able to use everything as an opportunity to grow. And then you become clear, and then one can serve God. And what better service is there in this world than to serve higher energy? Much more important than serving your ego, your mind, your idea of what's right or wrong. You know, it's God's world. We're a bunch of tourists here, you know. You come, spend, you know, a certain amount of time here. We do our best to muck it up, you know, and then we leave, you know. And it shouldn't be that way. We should do our best to make it something extraordinary. And you can't do that if you don't fix what's inside. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, can you say something about surrender? You had mentioned surrendering tension, and I can really experience the tension.
All right, you know, look, I have spoken so much about surrender that I'm, you know, look, you can only fit so much water in a glass. If you're full of you, there's no room for spiritual energy. So surrender is about letting, it's like getting rid of the water in the glass so you can fill it up with God's juice, you know? And that's what surrender is. I mean, I go through this, I'm beginning to feel like a broken record, you know? I've been asked that question 4 times in the last 3 days, you know, last 4 days, you know? It's letting go, making room in yourself to be connected with spirit. It's exactly what I spoke about the last 10 minutes, you know? And as I always say, you know, in order to have a spiritual life, we have to get free. Please try and sit still. We have to get free of the one person who's keeping us from having a spiritual life. It's ourselves. You get free of yourself through surrender, letting go, a piece at a time. You're not going to let go of everything at once, a step at a time. But give me a couple of weeks before anybody asks that question again. Not kidding. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, I meditate. I mean, you know, I said it this afternoon, take advantage of this. Because honestly, you know, I've been doing this now for 8 months, 7 classes a week, with maybe some days 50 to 60 people in meditate. And I'm getting tired, you know, I'm getting a little burned out. So really take advantage of this, you know? Because I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to do this, frankly, and I'm telling you this sincerely, you know? I mean, this is 7 days a week, or 7 classes a week. Some days there's 50, 60 more people in class. And I'm getting tired, you know, and this month especially has been it's a really difficult time between Rudy's birthday and Rudy's Samadhi, dead of winter, Mercury in retrograde. I mean, everything that can happen is happening in a crazy way this month. So please take advantage of this, grow with it, you know? Let it really do what I was talking about. You know, develop the kind of system that you can be used by God, by Spirit in the world. So, you know, I mean,
Can
look.
I ask a question?
Yes.
This is Emma. Did
Yes,
Ruby
Emma.
say something like that which we think is taking energy from us can actually be giving us energy?
You know, Emma, it all depends upon, again, your system inside. Nothing can take energy. Everything can nurture you if you have the capacity and build a connection with Spirit. And so everything is your teacher. Everything, even the most terrible things that can happen in life, become your teacher if you have that system inside, so that everything teaches you in life. I mean, how many times have I said it? You know, I am not the guru. My job is to transmit Shakti, to help people get strong enough to where they can sit in front of the real guru, which is life. You understand? That's what this place is, a gasoline station, for God's sake. You come and fill up your tanks with Shakti so you can embrace life. You have the strength to let everything that happens in life be your teacher, nurture you, teach you something about yourself. That's what these classes are for. Because everything in life is a manifestation of God, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the ugly. It's all a manifestation of God. And if you have the system inside that is strong enough, it's your teacher, it's your real guru. So yes, the things that are killing you can give you life. It depends on you. It really is. The things that you think are taking your energy, they're only taking your energy because you don't have the enough inner strength to be able to open your heart and thank them for being there, teaching you about yourself, you know? I mean this. And honestly, look, it took me a really long time to learn these things. I don't expect people to learn these things quickly. It took years to learn the things I talk about. But you got to do it. You know, they didn't build a pyramid from the top to the bottom. It went in, you know, a stone at a time. You got to build that inner pyramid. You got to build that tree of life inside yourself. You have to let it grow. You know, a step a day at a time, a class at a time. And the more you grow, the faster it happens. I really mean this. You can do in 10 minutes what used to take you 5 years to do when you really grow inside yourself. I mean, it's all over the, you know, like the Bible, the Bhagavad, it's all in those books, you know, turn the other cheek, who's going to throw the first stone? All of this stuff is there. And that's what they're talking about, exactly what I'm talking about. Not judging. You know, we don't really have enemies. We just have teachers. And if we would just approach people that way, God knows what we would learn about how to live our own lives and not have to hide and shelter ourselves from life, because life is the ultimate teacher. It's the ultimate guru. And every Swami and every yogi, they should teach this. Instead of pretending they're God, they should really train people to be able to sit in front of life and to realize that life is not hidden away in temples and ashrams. Life, you know, is the temple. That is, life is sacred. It's the temple. And it's there to teach us exactly what we have to do to learn, to grow. We have to just build a system that lets it do it. That's the job of meditation. That's the job of inner work, no matter what practice a person does. That should be the goal, to build a system so that ultimately one can sit in front of life and allow it to be the guru. It's the river that just flows past us, you know? Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, well, God bless you all, and thank you, and in all humility, I'm very grateful to be here and to do this, and I complain a little bit too. There's a part of me that's human also. You know? So bless you all, and thank you, and there'll be class tomorrow evening, and I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.